record.
Well, hello and welcome back to our podcast. I'm Leah Naidoo and
Dr. Nicholas Neaves. Great to see you all.
Well, today, as you know, we are going to be talking about your relationship dynamics and how we can have better relationships and enhance our lives. And on the cards for today is actually effective communication strategies.
Absolutely. I think, guys, it's the key thing. We need to aim for a win-win situation for those closest to us. And unfortunately, most of us have win-lose situations.
Yeah, that's true. So the first question we want to talk about is just what are, of course, some of the communication pitfalls in relationships and how can they be avoided?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we've got to understand when we are in a dynamic with people, we have certain criteria that our brains are presenting to us in relationship to that other person. And we almost prioritize that person with regards to importance in our life. And what you'll find is that the people who are more important or who can have a greater impact on you, we tend to actually go into more of a insecure type of communication style with them because we're a little bit more protective. Why? Because we can be vulnerable there and therefore get hurt.
Yeah, that's right. And sometimes vulnerability can lead us into spaces where we react from defense or we react from offense instead of listening actively to each other. So talking about active listening, how can active listening and empathy be used to improve communication in relationships?
Yeah, absolutely. I love how you said that. We also say how we can respond versus be reactive, right? So what we're looking at is understanding that when we are in a place of our own lives being full and our cups being colorful, full of our own dreams and experiences and wants, we tend to have this experience of wanting to share that with another person. So we then go into a dynamic with someone else where we're wanting to actually be curious about them. In other words, we go to give, we don't go to get. That is absolutely crucial. If we have the strategy of going to get from another person, we tend to listen to get to the outcome that we want, and we then inject our thoughts, feelings, and opinions into the dynamic, and the other person senses that we're not truly there for them, and we're not really listening to what their experience is of their world, right?
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, oftentimes when it comes to arguments or disagreement with someone, you'd see that in that dynamic, you're not exactly understanding each other, and instead you're communicating past each other because it's more about you sharing your point as opposed to hearing and communicating for conflict resolution. So what are some techniques for expressing needs and concerns in a way that is assertive, but not aggressive?
Absolutely. I love the way you put that, right? Because the minute that we are in a space of not getting our needs met, it is our responsibility to be accountable for that fact, right? What happens though for a lot of us is that we expect the other person to almost know what we need, because a lot of the times we don't even know what we need ourselves. So we're aware of there's a need somewhere, we're unfulfilled somewhere. You're my partner, you kind of should know. So that expectation or assumption can be really harmful. And, in my experience, it's often men who complain that, man, she just keeps like wanting me to read her mind. She wants me to know everything. And men tend to not be that tuned in. Men tune out to the external environment to protect from a biological point of view. They don't normally tune into the relationship to really hear what her need is, unless she spells it out black and white for him. So there is a bit of that concern with couples. So firstly, guys need to take a good log of what their needs are in different areas of their life so they can get to know themselves and really look into what are their actual desires and why they're in the relationship in the first place, and then start to see how they can communicate that obviously to their partner. So the first step is the awareness of the needs.
Yeah, wow, that's incredible, the awareness of the need. And for someone who might be struggling, so for the male who is in the relationship, who's struggling to find his position and also understand where he's at to communicate. How can we help reconnect
Yeah,
that thinking with the communications in order
I,
for them to be heard?
I love it, man. I just love the way you put that. And the key, statement there is to help bring him back into the relationship there, and help him get more of what his needs are. And people, in my experience, really listen from their heart when we come from our own hearts. So it's about one heart reaching out to another heart, and the heart space is where the vulnerability is. So again, in a lot of the coaching with men, it's about teaching them emotional sort of IQ and emotional awareness and awareness of feeling and expression of feelings, and just helping them tap into that feminine side within them a little bit more in a safe space, so they get a little bit more comfortable with the language of feelings. In other words, the landscape of feelings. And I describe it to them sometimes like a rugby team, right? Like they can tell you who the fly off is, who's the fullback, who's the hooker, etc. Well, okay, it's the same thing with feelings. Like there's a rugby team inside of you, and okay, where's the anger? Where's the sadness? Where's the fear, frustration, irritation, sexual desire? It's like a rugby team, guys. So let's just give them numbers or names, and then it helps guys to actually identify the feeling. And once they can identify the feeling, they can actually then practice sharing that with their partners. And men tend to forget to go a little bit of a layer deeper in with their communication. So say, for example, she'll say, well, how was your day? And he'll go, oh, no, it was fine, thank you. And he doesn't really want to go into that deeper layer because a part of him has compartmentalized his day into the stress-free zone. Now, I'll open that cupboard tomorrow when I'm back at work. I'm not going to open it now. I want to just hang fun with you. But she's curious about the world that he's been in throughout the day so that she can connect with him through feelings, and he doesn't realize that. So if he says, oh, no, my day was fine, and now he's comfortable with feelings, he can say, oh, my day was fine because I felt fulfilled in my meeting with Peter at 4 p.m. He and I discussed something and I connected with Peter. It's exciting. The business is going forward. It was a fulfilling afternoon. Wow. Now suddenly she's entered into his world. It's no longer just it was a fine day. He gives her an in to his world, which makes her feel safe. And now also to say, okay, well, he's opening, he's sharing, so can I. And then she feels safe now that she can share a bit about her day, and they're on a more equal footing there. So it's coaching men with feelings and being aware of what's happening aside to give them confidence to go there without the fear that they're going to lose themselves in feelings, but they can go into feelings and they can come out of feelings, go in and they can go out.
Oh, that's incredible. And very practical.
Yeah. So look, yeah, sorry. Communication is just about understanding who you're talking to. And when you're talking to a man, the analogy of the sports teams is a really good one because men get sports teams.
Yeah.
You look at men, they love data and facts and numbers, and they're looking at statistics and how many runs has this guy scored and how many sixes and how many times has he got a duck or whatever. It's all data, right? So if you help him associate feelings with data, it makes sense. In his world, it's like, okay, this is a practical tool. This isn't a place where I'm going to lose myself and be out of control. I can still be in control by getting in touch with that feeling and allowing that feeling to come through and have her meet me in that. And then it's just beautiful what happens, the intimacy deepens.
How important would you say it is to have those kinds of conversations? And how often should they happen?
Yeah, I would say that it's daily from the point of view of, that daily reference point for each partner to know that they're on the same page is a very crucial thing that couples forget. Men in particular forget. So what happens is they tend to get very busy, they live in their heads, and then they're tired or exhausted, so they don't really connect and end up on the same page. And then they drift a little over 2-3 days. And if they don't have a connection time, then a week goes by quickly, right? And then suddenly she's on a different sort of context to him. And then it brings up conflict because now they're thinking a little bit different. In other words, they've tuned out of each other instead of tuning into each other, right? It's like, trying to get to a radio station. If you miss it by like one sort of point there, you're not going to hear anyone speaking. It's going to be, but if you get it right, it's like, there's the DJ, right? It's the same concept for sure. So daily, I would say at least 10 minutes.
Yeah, at least 10 minutes, at most an hour.
Well, yeah. And, so how have you found with your relationships there with respect to that? Because in my experience with ladies, and I'd love to hear your opinion on this, is I often find that ladies have built up almost like a memory of not being heard, and they're not really aware that that's accumulated with inside of themselves. So there's a lot of water under the bridge. So now when they're with a partner now, and he's not listening, it builds and it builds. And do you find that it would be important to have that hour where he can really hear you unpacking so that you can almost clear away the water and almost reach a point of ground zero with him so that you feel, and this is the key, so that you feel satisfied that he's heard you. You feel satisfied that the topic or issue is complete. Would you agree with that concept?
Yes, I would. Definitely. I think that there's like different things that we keep score of, and it's not intentional. It's just the way it is. Although I would say if you do engage in conversations daily, the level to which you're heard is the level to which you're willing to share.
Wow. Yeah.
So if there's two different planes. I always talk about it like that. Where there's a surface, like the things that happen during the day, and then there's the impact of the things that happen during the day. And you can share the things that happen during the day and keep the impact to yourself. But the area where you actually want to be heard is the impact space. So when I asked, how long should the conversation go for? I think leaving a woman to talk about the impact of the things that happen during the day could like last for maybe hours.
It can do,
So
right?
it's also,
Yeah.
I think it's important to, of course, you're not going to time it, but I think it's important to be sensitive that while women, and we're stereotyping, but women may have the capacity to share more, men want to know the important stuff. And I think we've got to find a compromise there with how much we share or how deep we go. What does it actually mean for us to be heard? Do we have to share the impact of everything, or do we pick certain things out? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful description there. I've not heard that before, where we have the surface experience of our day, the day-to-day things, and those things impact us and make us feel a certain way, which I carry throughout my day, which is important to me because it's something that I'm carrying. And I'd like my partner to be witness to that, to understand what I've been carrying and therefore be a team player in this relationship and know what I've been through and be that supportive structure for me to express that. And that was beautifully said. Thanks for that. I really like that. And as a man receiving that, I was like, yeah, I like that. It's because it's like a two-step process. I mean, like a simple process. The fewer steps, the better. And okay, so I know that my babe has had a day. She's had a day, and I know that she had 2, 3 meetings today. But now I'm learning to ask, how did those meetings impact her? Okay. Now I can ask her, how is that meeting with Mary and Simon, for example? Okay, it went great, wonderful. But how did it impact you? What was the takeaway for you? What are your feelings after that meeting? Would that be kind of like how you would approach that?
Yeah, I think that would be well, I guess, as I said, it's just being open to communicate. So you could ask a question, but I know what it is that you want to hear. So I need to make sure I'm answering based on what you want to hear. Yeah, because I also think sometimes we might not find the correct language to express what we need to hear. Yeah, so there's that. And then we're speaking about this in context of relationships between spouses or between partners. We said that it should happen daily. And it should happen between 10 minutes to an hour. Should it happen like directly after you come home from work, or is this like time that we set aside before we go to bed to reconnect?
So I think the key there, it's a great question, you know, and look, it's a tall ask, right? I mean, we all know that the days can fly by, and before we know it, it's the weekend, and then it's the month. I mean, hello, we're in June already, right? So, you know, people just take a stock and say, wow, I'm in June. When last did I actually connect with my partner this year? You know, you'll find a lot of couples, well, over December holidays, we last actually spoke, you know, like that's not good enough, guys. So look, we're here to raise the bar and to help people understand relationships and really be better at them. And that's why we set this target of maybe 10 to 60 minutes per day. Okay. But why? Because it speaks about the intention to enter our partner's world and understand it so that their life is amplified through our presence. Okay. In other words, we're here together for amplification, not to get again or to just get by or survive or for you to just give me my needs the whole time. No, like I love knowing that you're curious about my day and my life because it's important to me, and how it went is important in the goals or ambitions that I have in my life. And if I know that you're the cheerleader in that experience, right, you have an interest and curiosity, it connects me like glue to you because I know you're in my corner. So it builds trust. It builds that love connection as far as, you know, the respect and the care that's important in a relationship. So for me, it's an absolute essential. And also answering the question about what time of the day, it's important to be available throughout the whole day in case something does happen, and not just at the end of the day, but obviously with really nice boundaries. So say, for example, if a partner of mine, let's say, called me and said, hey, I want to discuss something and I'm busy with a client, right? I would need to have set up a communication or code word with her that if she's in an emergency or an urgent situation, I need to attend to it immediately and I need to drop my client, unfortunately, who will understand and help my partner. If it's of an average sort of intensity, then I can say to my partner, hey, thanks for the message. Can I give you a call at lunch at 12 and I'll give you my full attention? Right now, I'm so distracted in A, B, and C, I can't give you my presence, but I'll call you at 12. So it sets a nice boundary and a time frame. If not at 12, then definitely when we start to connect at the end of the day. I think what people need to understand is that as we go through the day, we get stressed, right? And we stress differently as men and women. So as women stress throughout the day, you'll notice that their to-do lists just increase and increase and increase because your guys' brains are wired for more and more and more connection. So as you're connecting more and more and more with people throughout the day, you just want to connect more and more and more and more, and it doesn't really have an off switch. Men are different. Men throughout the day, as they're stressing, they're depleting their testosterone. So they want fewer and fewer and fewer connections because connections means a demand on their nervous systems to perform and to do something. So by the end of the day, the guy wants to do very little and he just wants to have silence. He just wants to be calm. And that's why you'll find a guy often goes and watches the cricket or grabs a beer or goes and walks the dog and he's a bit distant from his partner. It's because he's naturally trying to replenish his testosterone so that he can get that willpower back to be in the relationship again. So generally, what I suggest to my clients is for women, often what's important is as they transition back into the home, for him to get up and go and find her and give her a beautiful, delicious hug and a kiss and say hi is a beautiful bonding way for her to know she's number one. He's made a point of going and finding her, whether she's first home or he's at home. Go find her, connect with her physically, give her a kiss so that she knows you're together. And then he can say, listen, I'm going to walk the dog for 30 minutes, but when I'm back at 6:30, let's have a glass of wine and we can connect nicely. So it's very important to understand the differences there. I find that women at the end of the day do require a bit of physical touch and affection to be grounded, to be kept safe within the relationship, to know that he is there, he is thinking about her. And the guys need a bit more space. So often you'll find couples connect best normally later on in the evening, particularly if there's children around sort of like after the 8 o'clock sort of hour, going to 9 o'clock or whatever. And but it's important. What I say to some couples as well, and I got this from one of the really great relationship gurus out there, Stan Tatkin, and what he said is, even if you've had a really busy day, at the end of the day, and you're jumping into bed, just touch your big toes together, right? So that little bit of turning towards each other, that little bit of connection just says to each other's brains and nervous systems, I've got you. It's been a tough day, but I'm here. And then you can fall into sleep. So if the last resort is just touching your big toes, the point is that you've connected.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's lovely, right? But couples knowing that don't then have to have the pressure. Oh, I haven't connected with you. Oh, I haven't done my 10 minutes. I haven't done my 60 minutes connection with you. Life does get busy, but yes, you need touch somewhere. And hopefully it's not just the big toes.
Yeah, you're talking about like connecting, turning attention, focus. How important is it to be, so completely sidebar question, it stuck with me once you mentioned the word cheerleader, but how important is it to be your partner's cheerleader? And what are some like very practical but simple ways to make sure that your partner knows that you are rooting for them? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. I think it's really great that and I'm tempted to throw the question back your side to give an example of how to feel for you as well, and I'll ask that in a moment. But to have someone in your corner cheerleading for you means that number one, you have to have self-respect for yourself. In other words, you have to respect yourself and what you're doing and have healthy enough self-esteem that you're actually putting your life force into some sort of project or work or something that you admire, you feel good about, and you getting some level of fulfillment there. Secondly, you need your partner to respect you, which means you've had to show up for them in their life as well, to make them respect you as a man or a woman and what you do, right? So, I mean, if I'm if I'm addicted to gambling, have I earned the respect from my partner to be my cheerleader when I go to the local casino? Go, baby, go win 10 grand.
That ain't gonna happen.
Not going to happen, right? Because of that. So the first step is the respect. The second thing is when that there is a person there for you and only you to help you become the best that you can be. It's literally like a parachute. It's that. Have you seen that test where people stand up and they fall backwards and they catch the person?
Yes, that trust exercise.
That trust exercise. It's so important for the brain to know that no matter what happens today, there's you. And that's the purpose of relationship. Respect and then that trust element is so crucial. And I think that's how we can be better. The problem is most couples end up in long-term relationships, or I call them long-term therapy sessions, because what happens is the childhoods and the traumas start to get projected in the relationship. So we forget to be the cheerleaders. We then start to get wounded and hurt by our partners because of all the stuff that's going on. And then we end up in this entangled mess of conflict, sadly. And then we're not getting the best out of each other, So, but in your personal capacity, how in your life, how have you felt that when there's been someone there for you, and also as a woman, what's it like for you to be in someone's corner?
I think having a support structure is like, it's an absolute necessity. And oftentimes we find that we take on the cheerleading role when we're dating or in the early stages of dating. And then it's exactly like you said, as you continue on in the relationship, the focus then shifts away from your partner onto yourself and having to protect yourself. And you're right, it's that entanglement or that enmeshment where some areas are open and others you have a guard up. But yeah, I think it's like I personally find it so important to be a cheerleader for my partner, and I really do strive to like do that till the end of days, because nobody's going to support you better than I can. Nobody's going to show up for you better than I can, because I'm showing up for you, showing you that I love you, I care for you, I'm here for you, I believe in your dreams, I believe in you. And I think more than anyone else in your life, because you've chosen this person to be in partnership with, for them to affirm you in that way, it helps you soar. And I think it's such a gift that we can offer to our partner. And it's simple, like, especially if you know someone's having a rough time, you can send them an affirmation, you can send them a message just to say that I'm thinking about you, or you can do this, or I believe in you, or yeah. And I think it goes a long way.
Yeah. You know, my late wife used to say, Nick, you have to light all 100 candles. You know, you can't just expect this to be a flame-throwing experience. You have to light every. So I love the way you say, just a little message, just a little, you know, something I'm thinking about you goes so far. You know, because one of our deepest fears and stresses, right, is isolation and being alone. It literally will make you go insane. If you were alone on an island for a couple of months, you will literally start losing yourself. You know, I mean, there's studies to back that up and stuff. So having that one person there is amazing.
Yeah, talking about like isolation and that being something that causes us fear and insecurity, um, I I think it's common knowledge that women feel that way, but do men feel that way as well? Well, you've just expressed that they do.
Yeah, I think men would prefer it if they had the cheerleader. I don't know if it's a natural thing for men to be her cheerleader. Men tend to come from that perspective of, you know, protect and provide and procreate, and that should be enough, right? Don't expect me to send messages throughout the day or whatever because I'm busy or whatever it may be. But so I don't think that comes naturally for men. Men tend to create the frame, and they feel that's enough, right? So you know, I'll provide the finance or the house or the car or whatever, and that should make the relationship secure and the marriage secure. And unfortunately, they run into major problems when they realize that the woman is wanting way more than that. But a lot of men these days are aware that communication is important. And even those guys that are good at that, when I see their backs against the wall, when I go into couples therapy and I do sort of conflict stuff with them, you'll see them reverting back to more of that biological sort of masculine stance. You know, it's so wired into us, right? It doesn't matter how many books or yoga classes you've done. I can tell you right now, man, especially when your attachment stuff's been triggered as well. We unfortunately come from a history and we have so much memory of pain, a lot of us, that we revert back to those defensive structures, you know. So, and men typically do that rather quickly. But I think that would bring us into another area, right? Where if he understood a bit more about what it is that you would want as support throughout the day, like you were saying, how important it is to communicate that. Would you mind sharing a personal example of just one example of how perhaps you would like to be supported in your day, or how your partner does support you in your day?
Yeah, so I think it is different for men and women, but what's like when it comes to relationships and when it comes to being that support structure, I think it's important to pay attention to the kind of personality. I think personality also plays a massive role in understanding how to communicate. So I am not someone who likes constant engagement all the time. But what you can do is send me maybe a message every now and then, so that I know that I'm on your mind and you haven't forgotten about me throughout the day. And that's exactly what it is. I think also with women, because as you said, as we go throughout the day, we're wanting more and more connection. we still want to be connected with our partner, whereas with men, they want to detach and just keep all the resources together because they need to focus on the task.
That's it. That's well put. Yeah.
Pardon?
That's well put. Exactly it. Yeah.
But yeah, so for me, it would be like a random message to say that, how's your day going? But that also takes from me a bit of maturity to know that's not the time to talk about impact. That's the time to talk about surface. We'll talk about impact later. But yeah, it just keeps that connection. Whereas it's not an actual affirmation, it's just a point of connection. And that's sometimes all the support that we need, or all the support I need.
So I love that. So thank you for that share. That's wonderful to hear, and it sounds like that's being communicated. Just with regards to what you were sharing there, what I was hearing you saying is we need to have the awareness of context in relationships. In other words, at what point in my day or area or environment that I'm in, what type of communication am I experiencing? Because what I heard you saying there is that he's just checking in with me. This is more like a social check-in. This is not a intimacy, impact, conflict resolution conversation we're having right now. It's a, hey, how are you, thinking about you, surface conversation, like you say. And I think that's really important, because what happens with people often is she'll be wanting the impact conversation and he's just having the surface conversation. But if it's almost like if we can say, okay, we're having social conversations, we can have impact conversations, and you know, maybe we can then have conversations around perhaps planning and future goal setting or whatever it may be.
I love that.
Then it gives the couple, the two people, a reference tool to know where to meet each other, because that's where most relationships start breaking down, is that they're not meeting each other in conversation. She wants something here and he's wanting something here. But if they knew, is what I'm hearing you saying, which was amazing. Thank you.
Bless me.
Bless.
Well, we are running out of time, but it has been such a wonderful conversation just to have, talking about the different relationship dynamics and how it's impacted and improved by communication, and the importance of being aware of who your partner is, where they are, the context of their relationship, and really just meeting them at where they're at. What I've been hearing in this conversation is it's important to respect each other and the boundaries each other creates during different times of the day, so that we can meet each other, because the point is of being in a relationship is to meet each other and go together, and not I need you to serve me and vice versa.
Love that. Love that. Love that. Love that. Yeah. Wow, man. And that's so well put. You know, I'm really understanding that and excited for that too. I'm going to be using this. Thank you so much with others. I've learned honestly. Yeah. Meet each other where you're at, right? And I like that. So we spoke about surface social conversation. Then we spoke about the impact conversation of my day or experience. In other words, the intimacy conversation, right? And then perhaps a conversation then around future planning or goal setting, which would be more like a practical conversation, right? So if we're going away for the weekend, okay, love, have you packed the sleeping bag? Have you packed the walking shoes? That's not the time right there to have an impact conversation, because we need to leave in a couple of hours and I want to practically know that you've got stuff packed. You both know the level of conversation. You can both have a practical conversation. We walk away with thumbs up and we're both happy.
Yeah, a typical example in that kind of scenario would be, did you pack the shoes? And then the other spouse would respond saying, you always expect me to pack the shoes. Why do you do this? Yeah, so it's very important to pull back and reframe. And then when you get into the car and you're on the way to the trip or wherever it is that you're going, listen, you could have done it on your own. But
Yeah,
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 thank you so much.
pleasure. Yeah, no, great. Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you. This is Dr. Neaves here. Just happy to have shared today. Thank you for being a part of the conversation with us. Looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, all the best, and we'll catch you next week.
Lovely, absolutely. Looking forward to making people aware about the different levels of conversation, communication, and helping them meet on the same page. Thanks for meeting me on the same page today, Leah. It's been a pleasure.
Cool. Catch
Bye
you
now.
then.
Bye.
Bye.